Hello YouTube, I am here today with kind of a fun video. So if you recently saw this video where I was working in one of my art journals and I made a piece using just tiny colorful rectangles. That's something I do a lot in my art. I'll show a few examples on the screen. And while I was making that video, I talked about using the inside of envelopes for my art, which I do all the time. And it kind of inspired me that I want to try to make a piece, a couple pages in one of my journals, using only the inside of envelopes. So I dug out my envelope collection. This is not all of it, which is insane, but let's take a look. I just want to show you the kind of patterns that you can find inside of envelopes. So as you can see, like how cool is that? And for the most part, they are all black and white or blue and white, but they are just like so pretty to me. Like, I don't know, like I always get such a kick out of them. Like, and then sometimes you'll get one that's totally different and unique. Like, look at this one. What? That is so cool. And obviously they use these in envelopes to block whatever the contents are from being visible. I highly recommend looking at your junk mail before you throw it away. Sometimes you can find really, really cool, interesting patterns on the inside. Like, look at that, on the inside of envelopes. So I save them all the time. As you can see, I have tons of them. And I just kind of want to dig in and find some of the cool ones. Look at this. I love this one. This just like grid. So I'm gonna dig through. I'm gonna find some of the cool ones. Oh, this one's really cool too. Are you kidding? Look at that. So let's dig in. I'm gonna find some, and then we're gonna make some kind of like visually crazy art piece using only the insides of envelopes. So I hope you come along for the ride. Let's go. So today we are working in my current square art journal, which is an Archer and Olive art journal. It's a doc grid. This paper is great for collaging. So my first step is to harvest the best parts of the envelopes. So obviously there's one side that's like the back, and then there's one side that sometimes has a little window. I know a lot of the ones that I've saved have that little window part, and I still save that because sometimes you can use the smaller bits, but for this, I was looking to get a lot of material. So I'm kind of just going through and ripping up, harvesting the biggest pieces of the envelopes that show the pattern on them. I love this one especially, how it kind of looks like almost like a wood grain. That is so cool. It's funny because I've gotten the same pattern over and over again because I feel like, you know, monthly I got the same repeated bills that came with like an envelope that you could use to, you know, mail in. And because I was like paying online or whatever, I never used the envelope, so then I just had a bunch of extras. But then every now and then, like, I would get one of these blue ones like this, or this one here is just like plain simple, like almost like pinstripes. And yeah, I just cannot recommend enough to check out your envelopes, because like, look at this one. It's this weird, almost like a mosaic sort of confetti pattern. That is just irresistible to me. Like, I totally am obsessed with that. It looks like an I Spy or a Magic Eye. You remember those books when you were a kid when you would like hold up the pattern to your face, and then when you move it away slowly, it like becomes an image? Those never worked well for me. But anyway, so just still breaking down these envelopes a little bit, but I'm not throwing these pieces that I'm putting to the side away, the ones that don't have the majority of the pattern. Again, I am saving those because you can do cool stuff with them. So the next step, I'm taking these and just sorting them into two piles of blue and white and black and white. I do think it would be cool to mix them together, and I'm pretty sure I will do that in the future. But for today, I wanted to make two isolated pages, one with all the blue and white patterns, and then one with all of the black and white patterns. So I'm just separating these out and making two piles. And now that we have these two piles, I'm going to start with the blue and white. So just getting everything out of the way and pulling out my art journal. So blue and white goes first, and my first step that I did was sort of going through all these bigger pieces I ripped and just kind of cutting for clean edges. This is not like, obviously this is not required, but sometimes like the parts of the envelope might have folds in them, or they might have rips, or they might have some glue or adhesive. So sometimes I just like to, before I cut out my small rectangles, just kind of cut all those messier edges away. Sometimes those can be useful, and it might even be cool to kind of include them. But for me, I was really looking mainly for the patterns today. So I'm just cutting these blue and white pieces into bigger chunks with cleaner edges. Now that the edges are all cleaned up, I am going to start cutting these into rectangles. Now, as far as the sizing for the rectangles, that is totally up to you. I feel like this size that I'm cutting here is typically the size I go for. It's like about an inch tall and like, 2 centimeters-ish wide. But I don't use a measuring system at all. I just kind of go by what like feels good in the moment. And you'll see even as I'm cutting these that some of them end up not perfect rectangles. Some of them end up a little bit angled, or like they might have 5 sides instead of 4. They're not perfect shapes. And I'm kind of fine with that. It's just about making small pieces. If you did want to be super precise, I do think that there's a place for that, and that could look extremely cool. But for me, I was just sort of cutting these straightened edged pieces into slightly smaller pieces. And I also didn't cut every single bit because I knew I wasn't going to need that much to fill the page. And I figured I could save some of those larger pieces for the future because some of these patterns are really cool and I only have one of them. So I definitely don't want to waste it. But you'll see here, like these are not perfect rectangles. These are just kind of shapes. So now that we have all of the blue and white little pieces cut out, the next step is just to assemble. So now there are 2 different types of designs that I do with these smaller like rectangular pieces. One of them is what I'm doing here, which is more of like, it's like an explosion or like a sunburst almost. And that's where I kind of start in the corners like I'm doing here with 4 corners. And then I just sort of build layer by layer. So again, for me, there's not a perfect science to this. I try to keep similar patterns separated, although I did not do that in the bottom left right there. But typically I do try to keep the similar patterns separated so that the different patterns are next to each other, which like makes them really pop. But there's no perfect science to this. I'm just layering. So when I do one of these sunburst pieces, I start in the outside corners and then I just kind of move towards the center. Sometimes I'll do like an outside ring and then keep going in, but I feel like usually I have the best luck when I do these 4 corners and then just layer on the way in. So as you can see, it's coming together. The page is filling up with all these different colors and patterns and shades of blue. I just love how this looks. I think it's really, really cool. And as always, I didn't mention this, but the adhesives that I'm using are the photo mounting squares. Typically, I use the ones from Michaels. I do also use ones from, I think it's 3M or Scotch. It's one of those tape brands. I'll link those in the description. They are my favorite adhesive. I can't escape them. And they are what I'm using here. Typically for each square, I just need like 2 mounting squares on each little side. If it's a slightly larger, I might do 3. But yeah, they're my favorite adhesive. They work really well. As we're getting ever closer to finishing this page, I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone who has been watching my videos and looking at my journals and collaging with me in these past few weeks. You know, I was away from YouTube for a couple months and decided to come back and share what I've done while I've been gone and kind of work on some new stuff like this with you. And it feels so great to be creating on here again. I'm so happy to be sharing my art, and I'm so thankful that anyone watches and gets a kick out of it and maybe is a little inspired. Please feel free to drop it in the comments if you have something that you would like to see, a question you have about my process, or something you think I should try, or any ideas or things like that. I'm always looking for ways to, you know, spruce up my journal and share more things with you. So yeah, if you have any recommendations or ideas, please let me know. So as you can see, it's not like a perfect spiral burst, but it kind of comes together as you get closer and closer to the center. And yeah, I just really like this style. This is definitely the same style I used on the album art cover I did for the band Racket, and I've done this in a few other art journals, but I knew it would look cool with envelopes, and honestly, it looks pretty cool. So here's a little bit of the finished result, and I'm going to give you a close-up as well so you can really dig into those patterns, the lines and the shapes and the little tiny squares. I'm just obsessed. Now we're moving into the black and white side of the journal. And for time's sake, I cut the rectangles off camera. So we're ready to go and start laying them down. And for this page, I really wanted to try just straight lines. That's a little bit more what I did in the Collage with Me video that I posted recently, just kind of like straight rows of rectangles. And I thought the contrast between the like burst on the left side and the rows on this right side would look really cool. So once again, definitely trying to keep similar patterns at a distance from each other wherever possible, just to increase the way that they stand out and they don't blend too much together, because if you put the same pattern right next to each other, it would kind of blend. So trying to separate the similar patterns, but otherwise just kind of going for it. Sometimes you do end up layering over top of one. Sometimes the rows and sizes aren't perfect, and especially the widths can be a little tricky. Like as you can see, some of them are wider and some of them are a little thinner. And the way that I get around that is just by layering on top of the wider ones, and just trying to keep it in somewhat succinct rows. You know, I've talked about this on the channel before, but I have no real skills with drawing or painting. That's an artistic talent that I like deeply admire, but I have never had any skill set in those areas of art. So what I do with collage, I really consider it sort of painting with paper. And when I do this, I really feel like almost like I'm quilting, which is another art skill that I don't have. My aunts are all like such great seamstresses and quilters and crocheters, and I've never really given that a decent shot. And I don't know that I would be good at it, but I absolutely love quilting and looking at the things that people can create with fabric. I think it's really similar to collage in a lot of ways. And that's what I feel like when I'm making this, is it feels like making a quilt. And I just love that. I love that it gives almost the same effect. And I would love, here's another video idea I'm coming up with as I speak to you, trying out some like popular or classic historical quilting patterns, but with paper. Do you think that would be cool? I feel like that would be really, really cool. But anyway, so now my mind is racing. So this piece is coming together. When I got up to the corner here, I sort of, it got a little messy, and I had to do a little bit of finagling and layering to get it exactly how I wanted it to be. It just like the pieces, I picked one that was too big, and then it was just kind of like figuring out how to fix it perfectly, and you'll see it comes together in the end, but it did get a little wonky there for a second. Just adding a few final pieces to fix that top right corner and get it to where I want it to be. As you can see, I have tons of rectangles left over, both in the black and white pile and in the blue and white pile. So I think it's safe to say these will make an appearance in my art again soon, but this is it, the finished result. Here's a close-up so you can see those patterns, both pages. I love how this turned out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while this came to life. I hope you liked it. Leave a comment, let me know. I'll see you soon. Bye.